My name is Patrick Lancaster. I am an independent journalist, and I've been here in Donetsk and Donbass for almost the entirety of the war. I first came here in April 2014 after being in Crimea for the referendum there. Because I saw in Crimea how many things were being misrepresented in the Western mainstream media. So I thought after things sort of calmed down in Crimea that the same thing would be happening in Donetsk, and I was right. So I came here to help show the world what was really happening here.
Где выходят ваши репортажи, на каких площадках?
Mainly on social media, especially YouTube, and but over the years I've worked with many companies, including Sky News, Guardian, Associated Press, Reuters. That was all at the beginning parts of the war in 2014, 15, 16, until I saw that some of my reports were being misused by the foreign medias. For instance, in 2014, when I was at a soup kitchen in Pervomaisk after a rocket attack from Ukrainian territory, we were showing the results, and there was another attack. And later, after I sold that video as a freelancer, that video was misrepresented across many outlets, saying that it was rebels, Lugansk forces that launched on a soup kitchen. Was completely false. So instances like that is why I don't like to work with the Western mainstream media. Now I currently do have another cooperation with an Indian channel, actually, a fairly big English Indian channel, which is very interesting because they're able to show bits of both sides of the situation. So I like that, because in my opinion, people should see my reports and don't just watch my reports. Try to watch something from the other side too, to educate yourself as much as possible on the real situation.
Патрик, скажи, пожалуйста, вот ты видишь разницу между тем, что рассказывают основные телевизионные каналы мировые и западные, и между тем, что ты видишь сам здесь?
Well, yeah, for sure. In the West, they only show parts of the truth. They show the parts of the truth that put Ukraine in a positive light, because that is the popular narrative among the countries and the countries' governments. They don't really go out of their way to show what's happening on both sides of the line. Now, of course, some journalists like myself, who's been on this side of the line for so long, can't go to Ukraine and show that side as well, but that's a different story. When you have large companies that have the option to have journalists on both sides of the line to show the real stories, why not? And that's one of the reasons I work with, have a cooperation with this Indian channel, is because they actually have people on both sides of the line, which is very rare for the media sphere we live in right now.
А что ты видишь здесь, что точно не показывают на западных медиаплатформах?
Where can we start? The list is so long. We can start with the Tochka attack on the center of Donetsk that killed over 26 people, and many Western media sources lied about that, saying it was a Russian attack, and not even here. Some said it was in other parts of Ukraine, specifically the Italian media. There was areas in that. But I was there at the site 5 minutes after it happened. There's no question that that was a Ukrainian Tochka attack on the civilian population of Donetsk. And I wasn't the only foreign journalist. There's other foreign journalists that have seen it and reported on it as well, like Max Clark, a British journalist that's here, and others. But it didn't make it out as widespread as it should, as the same as if that would have been an attack in Kiev, for example. But we can go farther down the list and say a couple weeks ago when I was in school number 25 in Mariupol, and we came across a corpse of a young woman who was naked, presumably raped, strangled to death, and had a swastika written on her stomach in blood. And she was clearly tortured, murdered, and raped. And this happened in the basement of a school, school number 25. Now the thing is, that basement was used as a base for the Ukrainian military. In the middle of this civilian area, in this basement of a school, there were many uniforms and patches scattered around, documents, piles of burned weapons. Clearly was a small stronghold for a Ukrainian regiment. And they raped, murdered, and tortured this woman and then left their symbol on her stomach. And that now is being reported by the Western media. Not only the Ukrainian media, but for instance, Inside Edition in the United States has reported that is being perpetrated by Russians near Kiev, which is totally a lie. And for example, they also say that the swastika was burned on her back. Just lack of facts. It was on her stomach and in blood. They just take the trash information that Ukraine puts out, and they portray it as something they've investigated when there's no facts in what they do at all. One of the presidential advisors of Ukraine tweeted this photo from the story that I broke on this day of the swastika, saying that it was near Kiev. Total lies. Ministers of Ukrainian parliament have tweeted and reported about it and talked about it, saying it was Russian atrocities, which is a total lie. It was a Ukrainian base in the bottom of a school, a woman tortured by Ukrainian military, murdered and raped. And they just keep posting that it just lies about it, and it's just not acceptable. And this is just a couple of the examples. I could go on, but I don't think we have time for that.
Я еще видел ролик, где ты общаешься с жителями Мариуполя, они рассказывают о том, что Азов, батальон Азов, их стрелял по ним. Для тебя это была шокирующая новость?
Yeah, really. Not even just Mariupol, but every one of these newly newly controlled Russian or DPR territories that I've gone into, I expected to go into them right away and see a lot of damage because of fighting and whatnot. But a lot of even the smaller villages, they say that the Ukraine forces evacuated and retreated the villages, and then right away, as soon as they retreated, they opened fire on the villages, and just decimated these villages. And it's not just one person saying this, it's everyone, every single person that I interview saying this. And as far as Mariupol goes, I went into Mariupol thinking, okay, it was a stronghold for the Azov battalion, and Russia opened fire and just pounded the city, and that's what we're going to run into. I assumed we were going to run into many people that were upset about this. No, it didn't exactly happen that way. A lot of the people, almost all of the people that we went in, said how the Azov battalions used their yards for shooting ranges. They'd shoot from their roofs, shoot from the squares outside their windows. I mean, not just with guns, but with tanks. And every civilian area, the civilians said, was used as human shields. That's what the locals said. They said the Ukrainians were using them as human shields. And as well, not only just using them as shields, but actually firing directly onto the civilian buildings, civilian people. Even just yesterday, I interviewed a man who said that there was many people that tried to leave the Ukrainian territory yesterday morning, and they were open fire on, not just by shelling, but with machine guns. And another instance, I was when there was after there was shelling, I jumped in an ambulance with the DPR military that was evacuating some civilians, and the mother was crying over her son, saying that the Ukrainian army had told them to leave their apartment, and they said they weren't going to leave because that's where they're living. And then they opened fire on the apartment. And it's just example after example after example. And I even tell many people, I go in there with, not really to make an emotional provocation, but to get to the real truth. I say, when I go there, I say, okay, right now, the West and the East says, the West says that Russia is just bombing Mariupol day after day, and Ukraine is not firing at all. And they get upset for me even saying that Russia could be doing this, and they say it's Ukraine doing it. Now, of course, fighting goes back and forth, but I'm just saying what the people told me, and all of these facts that I'm saying right now can be seen on my channel. These are not my opinions. I keep my opinion out of it. These are the facts that people tell me from the ground.
Скажи, пожалуйста, ты чувствуешь по своей аудитории, что есть большой запрос на альтернативный источник информации? Много ли откликов, отзывов, подписок?
Well, yes. It seems now in this part of the war, the West is starting to open up because, like, take my YouTube channel for instance. In 8 years being here, I've made my way to work up to 59,000 subscribers. But in the last 6 weeks, my channel has almost gone up 600% to over 330,000 now. So people are opening their eyes and trying to find alternative means, and that's why the more they open up, the more I need to push to get more information out.
Я вижу несколько людей, таких как ты, энтузиастов, добровольцев, таких энтузиастов, которые работают над альтернативной точкой зрения. Вот могут ли эти люди перебороть систему? Она же глобальная, она огромная, она мощная.
Well, I think it's our jobs just to keep reminding people that there are other options, and to try to get other people to join in on the, you could say, civilian media, and just keep pushing to get the truth out of what you see with your own eyes, and not speculate on what you don't see with your own eyes. Just see facts and report facts.
После твоих публикаций ты получал угрозы? Чувствуешь ли ты себя в безопасности?
I receive near daily threats. My family receives threats. I feel as safe as I could. Of course, not completely. I mean, we're in the middle of a war here. Luckily, I've been able to evacuate my family to a safer place in Russia. But I think they're okay there, and I don't think any of the pro-Ukrainians are going to have too much luck coming here in Donetsk. But I work on the front line almost every day, and there it's a different type of danger. Not worried about specifically being targeted, but I'm on the front line where there's active war every day, and I just try to be as careful as I can and lower risks.
Если есть такие угрозы, так все серьезно. Твоя личная миссия, почему ты продолжаешь выполнять эту работу?
Because I need to get out the truth of what I'm seeing with my own eyes. If I'm not doing it, there's no one else doing it. So I need to keep pushing on, and that's the more threats I get, that just shows me I'm doing a good job, because I'm doing what other people won't or can't do. So I just I'm just gonna push on and just keep doing what I need to do.
Спасибо. Thank you very much. I wish you good luck.
You too.